And welcome back to our next session. And I have a really exciting panel together. And we want to discuss one question that one of our panelists brought up. And this has to do with connected energy. That's something we talk about all day long now. But how, if we're going from central to decentral, what's the next level? Is it micro? And then the question our panel is trying to answer today is how micro will it actually be? Let me briefly introduce who we have here. On the site, this is Dr. Christof Kortz. He's the head of Industry Automation and Electrification at E.ON Innovation. And he kind of brought up the question, and I'm going to ask you in a minute, why? And what do you think is going micro? What's really happening? And then in the middle, we have Stephan Noller. He is the CEO of UBRICH, a company that has tremendous experience and expertise in IoT and blockchain and connecting devices. So a real practice expert in IoT and connected devices. And then from not too far away, but virtually with us, is Dr. Jens Strüker. There he is. He is the managing director at the Institute of Energy Economics and brings in the market and economic perspective of this energy discussion. So we're talking about connected energy, and we were asking the question, how micro will it be? The discussion of decentralized energy, Christof, isn't new. That has been going on for a while. But now with these billions of devices coming in, there are new levels of this discussion. And you raised the question of, are we going micro, and how micro are we going? What do you see as game changers in this discussion? What's next?
So actually, you're starting with the million-dollar question, what is the next game changer? And exactly this question is the right question you can have a chat about at the coffee machine. And that's how this discussion started. I had a chat with colleagues at the coffee machine where we said, what happened in the energy world in the last 10 years where we are now? And 10 years ago, we were proud of building large power plants. There was something on the horizon about decentral, but no one really believed in it. Now we are in the middle of a decentral energy world. But when you see the reflections we heard this morning about 500 billion IoT devices connected, and connected means digitally connected, but they also need energy. We had a discussion at the coffee machine, actually, will our toothbrush, which is connected by a Wi-Fi and which has a battery, might become important in the energy world. And actually, that was the trigger to start the discussion.
Right, so you mentioned that the toothbrush is such a tiny device, and not everybody has a connected toothbrush yet, but this might be something coming up. How do you see this? What is next from the practice perspective on what devices, what technologies will be next?
Well, maybe, unfortunately, not toothbrushes, but I like them as an example because indeed, I think that it will get as small as toothbrushes, maybe even smaller, So one of our clients brings out sensors that can be worn in the body overnight, which are really small battery-driven devices, and they run a blockchain, protocol to also, measure energy consumption, which is an important thing. And the reason why I think, it will indeed become as micro as toothbrushes is that not only, technical feasibility is a factor, but do people care, And maybe 5 years, 10 years ago, the answer would have been no. I mean, it's a stupid thing, connected toothbrush. But now we have Fridays for Futures. We have millions of people who really do care, what things do, how are they being produced, and how do they consume energy, or maybe harvest energy. So indeed, I think we will see toothbrushes which tell that, And then they have to meter, how they consume energy, from where it comes, and so on. So indeed, I think this is something, people will start to care about.
So you would say there's a consumer shift. So while it was maybe about convenience and efficiency in the beginning, now the efficiency discussion moves on to be more green and sustainable, and this is why people care?
Well, there's an interesting, it's like two developments that meet in a sense, because it's not, of course, there's also a technical, energy production reason, why this comes into play. And if you look at the energy consumption of these billions of sensors, it's decent, So the IT sector is one of the fastest growing segments in terms of energy consumption because of toothbrushes and of course, big computers. And on the other side, there are consumers that start to think about these things and start to take care and want to know more, where does the energy come from? How can I be better in, consuming energy here? And I definitely think we will have, like power banks which tell where the kilowatt hour comes from or the milliwatt hour.
Okay, and it all starts with people caring. And obviously what happens, Jens, sometimes when people start caring, these trigger shifts in markets. Now, you're an expert on the economics of energy. What do you see happening with the markets? Are the markets ready for this?
Yeah, I mean, this has a lot of different perspectives. I mean, one is definitely the legal perspective, and the markets, of course, from a legal perspective, are not ready. But this, I think, we could change quickly. The other thing is the electrotechnical level. So what does it mean for all the different requirements when it comes to how safe is the net, the grid in itself, the infrastructure, and so on. But from an economic and information technology perspective, I would definitely say that technologies like blockchain, AI, etc., they give us a degree of freedom in the sense of now we can open markets. We can have a lot of more markets. So we can integrate devices of all kinds of sizes to the energy market. And this means maybe we can improve the market in itself, so the market efficiency in general, and also the question of how can we reduce CO2. And both is, I think, very, very crucial. And there are, of course, relations to each other.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing, because Christof mentioned AI, Jens mentioned AI, and that is, we're not just talking about energy consumption in the old kind of sense, but energy consumption also means data, right? So with energy consumption, if you think about a machine, not a toothbrush maybe, you can tell a lot about what this machine is about, how many pieces it is producing, how well it is, does it need maintenance, and so on. So if we talk about smart grids and micro devices that are being metered, we are also talking about datafication of these devices and making them accessible to a data-driven marketplace. And then suddenly metering energy consumption does mean something completely different. It's much more meaningful, much more powerful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Maybe can you explain a little more about the technological requirements to go that far?
Of course, you need to have the technology ready to do something like that. And I started the analogy from central to decentral. And we are looking at this kind of things very much from a perspective central management. Someone needs to manage all these kind of things. And we had a lot of discussions already today that it's quite challenging to manage a decentral world. And I have my doubts that central management, when it comes to micro devices in numbers of 500 billions or more, will at the end work out. Mm-hmm. So maybe to trigger something, when I was a young boy, I liked to read fictionary books. Maybe that's the reason why I'm sitting here as an innovator. And I read the book from Isaac Asimov about iRobot. And he made 5 rules for robots. Rules that define that the robots are acting independently. And why not thinking it, managing this kind of energy world from a decentral perspective? Why not talking about rules for a decentral device that says, take your energy from wherever you want, load yourself whenever you want. Second rule is, be ready to do your job when you are asked for doing your job. And maybe third rule is act in the sense of the entire system in a good sense. Mm-hmm. And that changes the perspective.
So you not only want to decentralize the energy, you want to decentralize the control and maybe the steering of where that energy and when it's delivered or provided.
So it's definitely something to think about, and I understand that the technologies are already in place or become mature in the near-term horizon. AI at the edge is an example for that.
Right. So Jens, you said already the regulatory issue is definitely not helping with this problem. So how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to get there?
Of course, very good question, and it's a long way. But let me come back to the thing of the problem, the issue here, what we have with coordination. I do think that we have a problem of complexity here. So if we open markets, if we open energy systems in general, not only markets, the entire systems to integrate more devices, this means a complexity challenge. And from a legal perspective, we can go there and say, okay, let's do experiments and see what works, what don't. And that's okay. So it will take some time. That's okay for a politician. That's okay for a regulatory authority. It will work, I think. I'm very optimistic about that. But the other thing is the trade-off between coordination and security. And this is where actually we definitely need some kind of trust, of identities, of provable identities. And this is about information technology. This is about blockchain or other technologies we have there. So if you want to have a real-time energy economy, very fast, very tiny pieces playing a role, active role in the system, then definitely trust is here the bottleneck to scale. It's not the legal part, I think, in the end. It's more like identity, data ownership. How can we prove it and how can we make it work? And very fast and very reliable. That's the point.
Okay. Maybe how much, if you're talking about the autonomy that we might go to, how much autonomy is already possible? Stephan, maybe you can speak from your experience.
Well, to transmit a little bit the fascination about where the technology actually is at the moment, I can tell an example, which is a SIM card. Everyone has a SIM card in their pockets and in your cars and everywhere. And Cisco is predicting that 50% of all these billions of sensors will have a cellular uplink. And we managed to bring a blockchain client on a SIM card, which actually runs completely on the SIM card. No additional computer needed, just a little bit of power. Which tells you where we are, so we can put a blockchain client on a SIM card which runs there, which clearly means we can do it. We can really put a lot of technology in the edge, even in very tiny battery-driven sensors today. And Moore's law, and how things develop, and you can imagine what we will have in 5 years' time or so. So it's definitely possible. And these devices do have their own cryptographic identity. They can manage, they can sign data packages that are being created, which gives a lot of power, to organize some, local, balancing, trading energy, for example, from the toothbrush to whatever, the car, that is not needed today and can give away a little bit of its energy and so on, So these things are definitely possible today.
Christof, might this be a way to create a trust, a system like this?
For sure. The point is to be aware of these kind of developments and give it a try to test this out. Mm-hmm. So no one can predict the future. But it's about now to see what is on the horizon, what develops, what is maybe mature in other industries and might be interesting for us. And as an innovator, I'm here to discuss this and try to find ways to test if these technologies become relevant in the near future. But also, and that's I'm linking to Jens, will this have a commercial impact, of course, for our company and value for the customer?
Mm-hmm.
And guys, if I may, just to think about it in the framework of an energy market and one of the biggest energy producers in the world, this means, if you think about the highly regulated smart meter, which we are now all expecting after years of regulatory work, to come into our houses. I have one. So these, blockchain on the edge, a smart meter is a cryptographic device, basically, right? That's the whole idea, to put a lot of cryptography into a very secured device. And I think we will go far beyond the smart meter, And it's a fascinating perspective, that E.ON will maybe sit not in the smart meter, of course they will still sit there, but also in the toothbrush, There will be a kind of smart meter, maybe at the same standard of security and maybe even regulation in the toothbrush or in the, I don't know, the switch in the wall, which turns on the light.
But
So, yeah,
that's actually a point. I would go away a little bit from an energy company is sitting in the smart meter and maybe in the toothbrush. I don't want to paint horror pictures here. It's about also, and definitely not one company will sit in all these devices. So it's about also, no one will own this 500 billion devices in 2030. It will be thousands, millions of owners. And they need to work together. We need to gain trust that this all works out together. And here comes also the regulatory part into the game, having a regulation that enables this kind of cooperation, exchange of data in a trusted way, but in a way that it brings value for everyone.
Mm-hmm. So now, it seems like this is, for many reasons, an incredible opportunity to move in that direction, to further explore what's possible. And then, so Jens, a question to you would be, how are we going to convince the relevant stakeholders to go with us? So what are the steps that we need to take as the ecosystem around this topic to make it happen?
I think we have to convince people that a greenfield approach is also possible as a brownfield approach here. This means, for instance, if you look at in Germany, we have a kind of asset registry, and we have this smart meter gateway. We just heard about that, and we can build here a kind of trust institution between both elements here, and then we can say, okay, we enlarge it to another unit behind the meter. And this means all of a sudden you have elements, we already have that in place. And in Germany, we have an organization, the DINA, the German Energy Agency, and they were now commissioned by the federal government to build a kind of prototype for this element. My institute is involved, and this is a good example. I would say it's not that far away to try things out. You can start very, very tiny there and then go big. So we have to try. We need a kind of attitude for trial and error, and the business models are there. It's not like we have to wait here for 10 years and to try things out 10 years even longer. That's not the issue here.
So, Christof, what do you think? Why are people waiting? What are we waiting for?
So maybe it needs a little bit bravery to go into these kind of things, go a little bit out of the old comfort zone to have everything under control. As I said, it's a cooperation with others. It's a cooperation with other companies. It's also giving a little bit control out of hand. And maybe also finding the right place to do that. And I think as an energy company, we are international. We are in many countries. We are active, finding the right place where regulation, mindset, people, boundary conditions are ready to test these kind of things out.
Okay. Yes. You mentioned the co-innovation or the cooperation that this takes. Which kind of networks could E.ON leverage right now? If you think, I mean, we have 3 very different perspectives on the same topic, pretty much with the same goal. What are the networks that we could all work on?
So networks in terms of people working together, and actually this kind of setup and this conference is an example for that. So I'm talking here to someone from a startup, I'm talking here to academics, and we had yesterday a session about working together with Israel, with Silicon Valley, so it's about opening up and giving the hand to cooperate.
We have one question from the audience that I want to bring in for you. IoT devices need batteries. So when these batteries run out, the devices are not connected anymore. We have wireless charging. How about an IoT kit?
To be honest, I do not completely get the question, but it's definitely, as I said, we have battery-powered devices out that run for years already. So this has improved a lot, And one new development is totally fascinating, is about batteryless devices, that create, through harvesting, energy on the fly, or a switch, by being pressed, generates the energy that he needs to emit a radio signal, stuff like that. So I actually think this problem, if you like, is going to be kind of removed from the equation. Yeah? We were worried a lot about batteries. Think about e-mobility. And until 3 years ago or so, everyone said it's impossible because of the batteries. Suddenly, you see trucks, that are being built, run on batteries. So this is obviously something that is maybe even going to disappear from the equation.
Mm-hmm. The whole question of batteries as a problem.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we will need batteries, but we will have really, strong improvements on the battery technology, but also on the energy consumption side of devices, which has improved a lot.
And maybe adding on that, I had the chance to be in Israel several times with our colleagues there, and there are interesting technologies around charging with indoor lighting or charging with Wi-Fi radio things. So there are a lot of technologies out there. Energy demand goes down from the devices. On the other hand, there are really innovators out there to solve this problem.
And if I can give one example, it's very fresh out as a news. The MIT brought out a chip. So we know that you can have an NFC chip in your body. Mostly, pets and dogs do have it, but sometimes humans do have it too. And the MIT now brought out a chip, batteryless chip, that can be worn in the body, which has a full, CPU, basically. So it can be reconfigured, it can do cryptography and stuff like that. So this is, it's still academics, but it will not take long until you can go into a piercing studio and get that into your hand or so, and then turn on the light or open doors and stuff with your hand. For the sci-fi fans.
It does sound like science fiction, but apparently it's already here. So the possibility is there. Now it takes probably consumers to pick it up. It takes the majority of people to accept that this technology is real and that it will spread. So maybe we do a round where if you had one wish for this whole ecosystem driving these technologies and bringing them to consumers, what would be a wish you had so we move forward? It could be for a company like E.ON, but it could also be another player. Who would you target that wish for, and what would you wish for? Whoever wants to start.
Okay, I give it a start. Of course, I'm curious about exploring these kind of things. My wish is, and that's also a little bit working together with colleagues, with startups, with tech nerds, always having the perspective of, okay, what is really the value on that? Do we testing these kind of things because it's just technology? Or do we see a concrete value for the customer in terms of better life or in terms of saving money or something? So always have these kind of perspective is very important to get acceptance for these ideas.
Thank you.
It's a very good point. What fascinates me is the idea, that we had digitalization, the big digital companies that we all know, that really reshaped our world in the last 15 years. And I see in front of us an even bigger wave, the next digital revolution, which is about things and connected cars and infrastructure and so on. And the fascinating thing for me is that companies like E.ON are becoming digital players. And if I would have a wish, I would love, and this is a good starting point here, that they start embracing and pushing to be in that role, because we need new players, we need a bigger ecosystem, a bigger push into embracing that new world.
Thank you. Jens, what's your wish?
So my wish is, often people say GDPR is the showstopper, right? And industries, on the other side, we know will need more and more real-time data. And among others, we have to train our models for machine learning. And we want to be situation aware. Think about all the EVs and when and where they charge. How green is the power here? And I think as a consequence, we need to share data without somebody controlling the data. And with blockchain solutions, we can prove the origin of data. So these concepts like SSI, self-sovereign identities, and so on, I think we have to share machine identities in a secure way here. And my wish is that we can bring them into the market, show that it works, that it is secure, and then I think we will get a big booster for information technology in the energy sector. This would be very, very helpful.
Thank you very much. And we're almost at the end of this session, but I want to thank you very much for bringing all this knowledge and insight to this topic. And now, are we going micro or not? We haven't fully answered that question, but we've started this discussion, and Christof will be in the exhibition hall. So if you click on hall, and even better, you click on networking, search for him, you will find him, and connect with him and ask all the questions you have. He has all the time in the world to answer them. And now, we're at the end of this session. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back at 4 p.m. right here.